it's time for Raging Form. Let's get right into it. Check out Dueling Guard's deck boxes, playmats, and binders. The great quality products that are anime based. They continually have more anime options becoming available. Use the affiliated link in the description for a 5% discount on your next purchase. So the original Raging Form is still the same, just with updated text, but essentially it's literally the same skill. Retire 3, and then choose a copy from your hand and stand right at a stand, and it gets 10k until the end of the turn, and this is behind Limit Break 4. You could also pay a counter less when it attacks to give it 3k until the end of the battle. That doesn't really come up as much, and it has the lore text too. But now more onto the crest. So let's see what it actually does. And so if you have a Revenger Raging Form Dragon with a Limit Break 4 ability as your heart card, and if you would pay the cost of a Limit Break 4 skill from Raging Rapt Dragon on your Vanguard circle, you can pay it with Retire 3 rearguards with Revenger in their card names as well. Thank you. It's actually playable now. You hear that, little guy? You get to be played, actually. Furthermore, the original power of your grade 3 units with a Limit Break 4 become 13k, including your hearts. Your Vanguard's Limit Break 4 abilities are also active when you have 3 or fewer cards in your damage zone. So, awesome. Limit Break 4 is live just in general. And we can play Raging Rapt Dragon with just the cost of retiring 3 Revenger rearguards. That's it. No CB, no Soul Blast, no discard 2 grade 3 Abyss Dragons. We can do that still, technically, but like, this is a lot easier to do, for real. So let's see if the Raging Rapt Dragon is the same as what we expect from like the Cecilia one. If you have a Vanguard with grade 3 Raging Form with a Limit Break 4 ability, and you have not gained an imaginary gift this fight, then discard at least 1 card from your hand with a total summation of 3s. Stride this, pay additional cost. Turn 1 Revenger card in the G zone face up, get 2 imaginary gift forces, and you gain the crest. Okay, literally what we'd expect. And it still has the old scale where it's overcosted CB1, so bless 1, retire 2 rearguards. Oh, I forgot, you have to retire rearguards on top of discarding cards. Yeah, and then you would stride from your G zone another copy of Raging Rapt Dragon. And it gets drive -1 until the end of the turn. So this is mimicking what Raging Form already does, but just as the stride. So a couple aspects with this. You may be asking yourself, what's the difference with the V-Series Raging Form and also like the original Raging Form? Don't they do the same thing technically? Why do we need a third option to even do the same thing? Yes and no. In this situation, you actually don't need any Raging Form copy from your hand. So that eliminates a lot of the headache that where you get to use search cards to get the copies of your Vanguard, such as Revenger Mar. More on this later too. And now you can just focus on having the rearguards doing this turn and then just stride again from the G zone, simulating that multi-Vanguard attack turn. Thanks to this, it's able to be done easily with Dark Bless to give you 3 Vanguard attacks as a stride, each attack too. Another aspect is that you get the imaginary force gifts as well, so you can actually put one of them at least onto the Vanguard circle, making your swings 38k easily. Your first one's going to be triple drive, and then the following ones are going to be twin drive, so you'll see a total of 7 drive checks too as well. This can also be done while your opponent's a grade 2. So this is actually a lot more scarier than just doing the V-Series Raging Form if you went first, because you only saw 6 drive checks, and you run into the same setup where you still need a Dark Blast to do what you do best, and everything else is live too, like our retirement effects too, such as like Renal, for example. So this makes a bigger Vanguard attack and also see an additional drive check too. So holy crap, they fixed it, and they actually made it something that is worth going into as well. The rest of the G zone, we see Harmonix Messiah as we expected for the Raging Rapt, so you have your full play set. More than likely, you're going to use the first 3 in one single turn, and you just have one that's just chilling. But then again, it says you can also just flip the 4th copy when you do the crest ability too, so that way you just use up your playset that easily as well. And come to think of it, by the end of that turn, you're going to be Generation Break 4. Like, holy crap. That is insane. So that actually makes more sense why they even included the GBA, because you can probably go into the next turn anyway. Holy crap. Okay, that's some things to try out at that point. You get the generic restanded, such as Krogosh. Chain Ranker, thank you. That's a good reprint as well. We expected it after seeing like the Crystal Luster and also the Katrina, so thank Bushiroad for that. We got a Revenger Drag Rule over here that's more generic. Might be flip fodder at this point. A Morfessa, so that you actually get 1 Morfessa. And judging how things will look, more than likely 1 is enough, but you could always get a second one if you need to as well. And then the G guards, you get at least the one that is recycling your grade 1s, but also become a perfect guard. This is going to be big, especially if you do Raging Rapt Dragon first and then do the original Raging form, you're going to need some grade 1s back into deck to be able to not deck out, but also like just reuse stuff as you're retiring during the battle phase too. That's important too. So I would suggest getting a second one for that. We really don't need this one that grabs from a rearguard to Guardian Circle. If you do the full Vanguard attack turn where you get 3 Vanguard attacks, you're going to have an empty field essentially. Gelito I can understand because it flips, so that way you're closer to GB8, which makes sense. They didn't give us a plot maker, they just gave us a Cray Element, so I feel like if the plot maker would have been nice too, just as a free Ritual 3 type of G-Guard play. So holy crap, and so I just want to dedicate the rest of the video of having some other cards in mind too. One, I hope these cards are in the main deck because again, they didn't reveal the main deck up to this point, so it's still a mystery technically. But there are some cards that I would consider myself trying out, and also some cards for you to try out or keep in mind as you're playtesting too. So the first couple cards is Raging V series and also Sleight Hacks. So as you know, shout out to X's Vanguard, as we were chatting, one of the things was like, can we take advantage of this original Raging form, but also using the V series one in some form of capacity? V Raging form just grabs any grade 3 Revenger from hand and rewrites it, so you can technically play any Revenger. However, you do want to have a Raging form to continue another Vanguard attack, to do it again, essentially, right? So then the question comes to like how many copies ratio-wise, right? Do you play 3-1? Do you play 2-2? So that becomes a question too, because you want to open up with Raging Rapt pretty much your turn 3, regardless if you go first or second. So then you want to see the original Raging form as consistent as possible. So you can think of 3 to 4 copies, obviously. Are there ways to search for that? And not necessarily by the time that you write grade 3, that is a guaranteed search. The one that comes to mind is Sleight Hacks. So that one, when you write it, you can discard kind of last one, write a Raging form from your deck and actually write it as Vanguard, and then it bounces back to hand. So now you have not only fixed your grade 3, right, with the right Raging form that you want, but now you have a grade 3 to discard to go into Raging Rapt to follow up with that as well. Keep in mind that it is a counterblast too, and if you plan to do 3 Vanguard attacks, you need another CB for Dark Blast, so that's a 2 CB type of play. So I'm hoping they actually have some Sleight Hacks copies in the main deck, so that way we can actually tweak some ratios, maybe 1 to 2 to 3 copies, depending on how much greedy you want to be with your regular Raging forms when it comes to the ratios. Because honestly, once you resolve one of them later on, you just need to have a V Raging form be the second Vanguard attack, so it writes any grade 3 Revenger, and you've already accomplished your 3 Vanguard attack turn anyway. Other grade 3s that come in mind are Raging Fall, and then by the time this comes out, we're going to see and have Bracing Angel Ladder. So these cards are helpful in matchups where there's some disruption. I know Raging Fall was kind of like the other alternative play that we fell back into. It's also a great synergy with Chain Ranker because it becomes a restanding stride with guard restriction once you have GB3, which is super easy with this deck. And it's 3 or more cards for each attack, which you can easily get 4 attacks while having double Vanguard attack too. So Raging Fall was still actually of value. However, with Bracing Angel Ladder, we might not need Raging Fall at a certain number of ratios or at all. And we can just rely on Bracing Angel Ladder just to make sure we have some type of protection with our field, so we don't have to worry about disruptive plays, and we can still just do Raging form plays. For the grade 2s, I really hope that they have these cards in the main deck as a reprint, specifically Mana and Dark Blast. These are vital cards to have. Raging form does what it does best. Mana is free fodder. It also searches grade 1s that you need to. This is another way to extend attacks too with the V Raging form as well. But overall, you just need to grab what you need at that point with Mana, and it's free. There's no CB, no Soul Blast. That's very impactful. You have Dark Blast too, which is necessity. It's the only card that actually brings itself back to a new rearguard when it's retired too. Because if you think about with Raging Rapt or regular Raging form, you need a total of 6 rearguards. And so where's that 6th one coming from? And it comes from Dark Blast. The other cards that I hope that is also in the main deck too are the duel with Rukia and Rakia. So Rukia is a grade 2, so when you write it with a grade 3 Revenger, you can check the top 3 and add 1 to hand essentially. So that helps searching pieces, but it also helps on consistency on having discard fodder for the Raging Rapt cost. Also, Rakia is a grade 1 that also is able to search any grade 1 and call it as res. So this can also call like Mar to be able to guarantee the search at that point and have another copy of your Vanguard, or it's just a body just to have a body in essence too. You could also get another Rakia too, and then use that rearguard Rakia to Soul Blast too. And if you roll with Dark Blast that turn 2, you can Soul Blast it out and revive it immediately And now you have Dark Blast and another body to work with moving into that turn too. Grade 1s are like Renault. This is one of the most impactful grade 1s too. It's an on-hit whether at attack or boosted. You get to check the top 3 for Revenger. It's also a V card, so it has 10k shield, 8k base. When it's retired by basically your card's ability, you can Soul Blast 1 and your opponent chooses one of the rear guards and retires it. Like, it does a lot while you're doing your Raging Form thing. Like, it's important. And spending more time with Mar and also a card like Ify. So when it comes to before this, you really needed a Raging Form card in your hand to follow up with the Raging Form skills, right? So Mar was an excellent card to use a CB to guarantee the copy, essentially. Ify is also used in some deck lists where you can check the top 5 and hope that you find a Raging Form, essentially, too. I did not like this card because it's not guaranteed. And so I'd rather just use that slot for like a Mar, for example. However, you need to see the original Raging Form so you can do Raging Rapt turn before your turn 3 because you do have to ride it. So I think Ify might see more relevance and become even more important where you can play it and check the top 5 as soon as you go to turn 1 or your turn 2. So that way you have increased chances of getting the Raging Form that you actually need and want. Some other Revenger cards that are like kind of nice to have when it comes to the main deck. So think about like the Revenger PG. So with Renault, you're able to search the top 3 for any Revenger, right? This can also grab a Revenger PG. So now not only you're getting combo pieces, but since it's during the battle phase that you get this card, you might as well get some kind of like defensive quality. And that's where a Revenger PG would actually be appreciated. In my current build, I actually play this as well because it's really nice just to be able to grab a grade 1 PG Revenger. And then you have the G guard that also recycles grade 1s later on. So you could just recycle your grade 1 PG again and then later on, you can find it again. Furthermore, there's the Revenger heal too. So it's able to counter charge, soul charge. I actually play one of this as well because again, searchable, you can G-guard because of the search at that point too, which is nice. But there are times that if you can counter charge, it's very appreciative in this deck too, especially if you're going to rely on cards like Slay Hacks, Dark Blast, and Mar. Over time, and even your other strides use a counter blast too. This is one of the things I appreciate about like Chain Ranker and now even the shifted cost of Raging Rapt. They don't use CB anymore at this point, or Chain Ranker never used CB, but you get my drift at that point. So then the CB is really used for your rear guards to make your turn happen, essentially. Another grade 1 that I've messed over the years is Trumpeter. This lets you, when this unit is called, you can pay another counterblast to grab a grade 0 Revenger and call it as rested, essentially. But this card essentially just gives you another body to further extend. If you didn't have the 5 to begin with, this can help extend to making sure you have a total of 6 rear guards to retire during that battle phase. There are times where you can extend this with the V series Raging Form because that also uses a counterblast to search once you're at 4 damage or more to grab grade 2. So you grab mana, and then you grab this, and then this can grab a grade 0, and all of a sudden you have 3 new rear guards to do another Raging Form skill again. So you can get 4 Vanguard attacks with the V series, and technically you could probably do it with Raging Rapt too, but it's a lot easier with the V series. But it's something that you can worth exploring maybe 1 or 2 of and see if it's even worth it at that point too. And then lastly with the strides, I recommend getting another Chain Ranker, another Morfessa, maybe some of the Diablo strides too. I fall back into these because they're more utility based and niche scenarios. You know, the Phantom Blaster Diablo, you can just counterblast, get 10k in a crit without the necessity of having 3 rear guards at all. That's more of a guard restriction. If you're going into Phantom Blaster Diablo, more than likely, you don't have much going on. Very rarely that you're going to go into it, so that way your opponent can't guard from hand, but there's Blitz orders now, like Sanctitude, and there's G-guard plays now too, so that it's risky to go into that and just have like not a great turn, essentially. But it's nice to have a pair just in case. The other Phantom Blaster Diablo, Spectral Blaster Diablo stride is a generic restander outside of the Premium Collection one. The Premium Collection one is also kind of situational because you have to assume that they don't have a certain number of rear guards. But that's tough against certain matchups that produce rear guards out the blue. Excel is a good example, like Gold Paladin and other Paladin clans too, right? But just in general, decks that just have bodies pretty easily, turn by turn basis, it's hard to have something to fall back as a restander like that. So this card can be potentially a generic restander that you have triple drive and then a single drive. And you could also make use of Dark Blast too because you retire during the main phase, but then you can get another body for the counterblast retirement during the battle phase too. So it has some synergy there, although it is 3 CB that turn. Be mindful of that. But again, it's just nice to have some backup strides, assuming that we have the room too as well. So hopefully we get to see some of those cards during the main deck reveals too. And then it's definitely worth trying out. As I mentioned, just having ratios with the original Raging form and then just utilizing Raging Rapt that first turn 3 that you have, I think is in a very good spot. You also can generate more force markers moving forward with the V series cards, including Raging Fall as well, if you end up writing that last, for example. So you can still benefit at least with 2 to 3 to 4 potentially force markers for the rest of the game moving forward that turn 4, essentially, making your turn still worth it at that point too. I'm excited for this deck set, and obviously I was excited with the Musketeer one. So I definitely I'm more excited to even get these soon, later this year in the English, and I hope that you guys are too as well. If you guys still need to pre-order them, feel free to check out 50 Card Shop too, and use the affiliate code to save you some money along the process too, and support the channel too. And let me know what you think about this reveal, and also maybe some ideas or some thoughts that you want to share and cook. You know, love to chat with the community and hear your thoughts on it too. On to the next one, amigos. Bye!